In this video, we're going to discuss three related concepts: the notion of a key, the notion of a candidate key, and then finally a primary key. And all of these are related to a relational database. So when we have a table in a relational database, and again, another name for that is a relation, we want to be able to uniquely identify a given row in a relation. And a key is an attribute, or in some cases, a collection of attributes that we can use for that purpose. So if we consider our student table that we looked at in the previous video, we had a column for the student ID, a column for the student name, a column for the student's email, and then some other columns that I've left out. In the case of this table, there's actually more than one possible key that we could use. One option is the ID column, because every student has a unique ID, and therefore the value in that column will allow me to uniquely identify a given row, a given student. Another option is email, because every student has a unique email address, so no two rows will have the same value in that column, and therefore that column is a key. We can also use the combination of ID and email. Even though we don't need both of them, the combination of those two things is guaranteed to be unique, and therefore that combination of attributes is a key. And the same thing holds for the combination of ID and name. You could have more than one student with the same name, but the combination of ID and name is guaranteed to be unique and is therefore a key. So that's what we mean if we just say the word key. It's just an attribute or a collection of attributes that can be used to uniquely identify a given row in a relation. Now there is a subset of keys that are known as candidate keys. And to be a candidate key, there can't be any unnecessary attributes included. And the technical term for this is it has to be a minimal collection of attributes that allows us to uniquely identify a given row. So if we consider this table, which is one that is linking students to the courses in which they are enrolled, and you can see we have one column for student ID, one column for course ID, and then the credit status for which the student is taking the course. In this case, if we consider possible options here, we'll see that some of them are keys, but not all of those are candidate keys. So take, for example, student. Well, a given student can be enrolled in more than one course. So for example, we see that this student, the one whose ID number is 4567890, is enrolled in both CS460 and CS510. And because that's the case, in this context, student is not a key, because it doesn't uniquely identify a given row. There are multiple rows that can have the same student ID value. And because it's not a key, it can't be a candidate key either. Now let's consider the combination of the student attribute with the course attribute. Because a given student can be enrolled in a course at most once, a given combination of student and course is guaranteed to be unique, and therefore that combination of attributes is a key. It's also a candidate key, because if I take either of these attributes away, I am not going to have a key anymore. So if I take away course, I'm left with just student, and we already said that student alone is not a key. If I take away student, I'm left with course, and a given course value can appear more than once. So that's not a key either. And therefore, the combination of these two is minimal. Neither one of these is unnecessary, and therefore it is a candidate key. If we then add credit status to student and course, that combination of all three columns is still a key, because a combination of student ID, course ID, and credit status is guaranteed to be unique. But it's not a candidate key, because credit status is unnecessary. I can take that out and still have a key, and therefore this combination is not minimal, and therefore it is not a candidate key. Now, what we typically do when we define a relation in an actual database is we choose one of the candidate keys as what is known as the primary key. And that primary key is used when the database system is arranging the table on the disk. It actually organizes the data so that we can quickly retrieve things using the value of the primary key. And when we write the schema of a relation, we typically underline the attribute or attributes that are making up the primary key. So for example, if we choose ID as the primary key, we would underline ID in the schema of the student table.